grow at times, and sometimes it just takes seeing things in a different slant. Yes. So the idea of relationship with me was very disjointed, so to speak. Yep. And then about 8 or 9 years ago, and this is just for about the action figure. 8 or 9 years ago, I met a lovely lady, and she presented this idea of us, yeah, as something that grows out of a relationship. Yeah. So when I would get in relationships, I had a fear that I was going to get fucked over. Yeah. If I really,
Yeah.
really liked the person. Now that fear was it was under the surface, but then it would come up and the other person had no idea that it had come up. Yeah. And my
Would
head,
it come up in anger? Would it come
it
up
would
sort
be in
of?
anger, but it was sort of like I wanted them to prove they loved me and they had already failed. Yes. It was set
Yeah.
up for them to fail no matter what. So it was just yeah, it was an impossible uh, request. Yeah. So this thing sort of haunted the action figure for quite a while. Uh, and of course, the great dream or the was when I stopped using and drinking, it would go away, as if the drinking and using caused it, but it didn't. Yeah. So it surprised me when I was living sober, and uh, and then it would produce these terrible, when I acted out, produce these terrible emotional hangovers. Yeah. Which I used to escape when I was loaded. I would just get high and stuff. And when I was high, I had a feeling in place before other feelings came to me. Yeah. It was sort of like a protective shell. And then when I was sober, I was naked again in a way. And how bad I felt when I acted out was really uh, a motivator for really praying for something to change. Yes, and I had figured out I'd just stay away from relationships or whatever. It didn't matter about hanging out. It was when it was significant, when I really liked the person. And this went on, and I was sober, and let's see, I got sober in 1988. I was using stuff that I learned in recovery, and it would just still come up occasionally, and it could ruin something very easily. Yes,
Yeah.
if it got out, it really, yeah, there was a lot of wreckage. So, and it used to happen around holidays for some reason. I was more open to getting triggered on holidays. So I was with this lady in San Francisco, and it was New Year's Eve, which was a big one. And I started to questioning her, like, Inspector Clouseau, it's like grilling her in a way. And so uh, I made a big drama out of it, and I stamped out of the apartment, went back to the car, but I didn't want to leave. I wanted to keep fighting and engaged. So I was really
Yeah.
pissed when I got to the car. So I called her up right away, and I stormed back up there. And I had been through this routine before for years. Yeah. So I knew it wasn't going to end, but I didn't seem to have any ability to divert it or thwart it. Yes.
Yeah.
So I went back in there, and there she was, and I was ready for round two. I was thinking it was going to be a 12 rounder at least, round two. And just when I was getting to put the foot in the mouth once again, something changed. Yeah, something. I went. It was like a deep mental groove. The water kept flowing down the same way. It got diverted. It got diverted. It went another way. It was amazing. And then
Yeah.
it flew over, which has never happened before. And I was looking at the lady. I said, "Man, you you don't know what you just missed." Yeah, it was really cool. and it broke its back. It never came with that much strength ever again. Yeah. So
Yeah.
sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. And in this case, I thought it was slowly, but it did what it did. And then I was able to have a viable relationship with another person. That was the thing. In AA,
Yeah.
we have a statement in the big book of AA. Many of us are incapable of having a viable relationship with another person. And that really hit me. Yeah, it got through because that was something I felt I knew and I didn't want to know for years. Yeah. And so then things just got better and better, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, concerning relationship. And then I met somebody, and then she was talking with me, and she gave me this idea that, see, the you and the me, sooner or later, the you becomes an other, and I get fucking afraid. Yeah, yeah, it becomes like a threat as long as it's you and me. But then it was presented as our relationship is going to produce an us, yeah, and that us, the importance of the us was bigger than the one you and the one me, yeah, and
Yeah.
it's worked for now 8 years and stuff, yeah. So a lot of times miracles in the action figure world, you got to wait for them, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
It's
as we say in recovery, don't leave before the miracle. And so I hadn't. And it was 11 years into sobriety when it broke, but it broke. And I haven't really acted out that way. I mean, that way was like criminal. I could have been put in jail many times.
yeah.
Not physically or anything. I just go fucking crazy. And then I'd barge off, go to the airport, with no intention of wanting to leave, buy the ticket. As I was walking down the runway, I lost the ticket. I had to buy another ticket. So by the time I got back to San Francisco, I was about $1,000 poorer, and I still was fucking alone and just feasting on being right. It was a weak meal. So,
That 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 might explain why all that you talked about just then, the chapter or the paragraph or whatever it was that I read in that Course of Miracles, was the Course of Miracles made easy, this book actually, but it said it'll cost you a lot of money acting like that, when you
yeah.
when you said that, when you said over
Yes,
the
I
pipe.
mean, life was just trying to tell me. I mean, I couldn't even get to the gate. I lost the ticket. I had to go back to the counter and I had to buy a whole nother one
Yeah.
because it was insane. So, uh,
My big one's storming off and then having to pay for expensive motel rooms for the night when I've got a perfectly good house to live in. I just take off. I've done exactly the same. Yeah.
yeah, so
But not
these
as
are
much
what they
anymore.
call in like Hinduism, deep mental grooves, and they can be deep emotional grooves. And the action figure uh, has them, or it can be an expression of them. And if it is, yeah, it could be a rough road for a while. But if you stay open, and the miracle did happen, and it was one of the the biggest uh, like blips in my life.
Yeah.
These events, yeah. And then when I was sober and the emotional hangovers were just a killer. I felt super shitty for like 3 days after I almost ruined everything. And yet it would keep coming up. And then finally it got broke, which is cool. So this is this isn't non-duality we're speaking of, but there can be incredible effects on the action figure where your ability to enjoy life can get dramatically changed. Yeah, because a lot of us are crippled uh, because even if we had it all, we couldn't enjoy it because of this head or an emotional or a mental groove. Yeah. And you know,
Traveling light.
yeah, I feel the idea as an action figure, the best idea is to have a sense that you're being used and to surrender to that which you found is the puts you to the best use. Yeah. So I feel like in recovery, we just make there's two options. Either you're having faith in the finite self, or you're having faith in the infinite. Yeah. And when you have faith in the finite self, you can have faith in the infinite. That's just more faith in the finite self. Yeah. So it's important. This is where the non-duality, I feel, comes in. If you don't mind, we started, right? Yeah. Let's switch it to the non-duality. But the non-duality to me, uh, just my humble observation of recovery from addiction, there is an underlying addiction that can go unnoticed. Yeah. And actually, the other addictions will hide it. And this is the mental addiction to this idea of being the doer, the thinker, the feeler, the taster, the noun, so to speak. Yes. This is its drug. And it's stubborn. It will defend that drug to the point where I used to use an example because one drug I went really, really far down a hole, and that was with cocaine. Yeah. I did a lot of stuff, but the cocaine was the most, produced the most exquisite suffering and mental hells than anything else. And, but I never thought I was cocaine. You know, no matter how much I did or I loved it or whatever, I never once thought I was cocaine. I always thought I was this action figure. And to me, that's the biggest drug. The biggest drug is the addiction to the action figure, where you can do tons of other drugs and it will not touch this addiction. This addiction, and this addiction can weather spirituality, can weather anything. Yeah. It's in Buddhism, they call it the cherishing of self. It's a weird little mental love affair. And I feel not noticing that and that going on its rampage is what triggers the need to escape it, and they become the other addictions. Yeah. So you hope you're going to drink yourself out of it, and therefore you try it, and it seems to work a little bit. But after a while, the payoff cost ratio gets worse and worse, and now you can't stop drinking or can't stop doing the drug. Yes, because it was a solution to the addiction, and then that solution becomes another addictive expression. Yeah, it's a wild. So I ultimately feel the real relief is from the bondage of self. Yes. Yeah. The real relief is the bondage of self. And that's one of the big prayers in recovery is to please relieve us of the bondage of self. It's not saying, please stop me from using or drinking or doing drugs, but it's please relieve me from the bondage of self. Yeah. Yeah. So the bondage of self is what demands relief. And some of those ways it directs us to find relief become other forms of addictive expression. Yes, that's how it goes. So it's almost as if it produces a child that looks quite a lot like the mother. Yes. So the mother addiction produces child addictions. Yeah, yeah. So I didn't see the dilemma with it all is this idea of self. You don't you don't have a feeling that you've slipped your hand in the glove. You have a feeling that you're the glove. Yeah. You don't start with the feeling that you're the hand and then maybe you can catch it getting slipped into the glove. We don't start there. We are before that. but we're starting as the glove. Yeah. And therefore, and then we hear ideas of what it would be like to be free from the glove, and we think it's the hand, and then we try to seek becoming a hand as the glove. Yes. So I feel humbly, we're all awake. You're awake to this stuff for 30 fucking years. A lot gets revealed. Yeah. It just does. And so, there is a huge statement in recovery, and it's not directed to us. It's really about what we think we are, and it is self can't get out of self. Yes? That doesn't say you can't be out of self. It says self can't be out of self. And this is one of the clicker. This is one of the things about this stuff. Self can't get out of self, but the idea of self doesn't think so. The idea of you, called Paul, is an idea of self. And that self, aka Paul, is constantly trying to get out of self. Yeah. I do not believe it can learn to stop. I don't. I mean, it took me so far down the road. I don't see that there was going to be a turn left or right. It was, yeah, it didn't seem like there was an exit. Yeah. The beautiful news is when you hear self can't get out of self, you can see that you hear it as Paul, but now you have entertained the idea that Paul, aka self, isn't you. Yes? So you don't spend any time trying to get out of what you can't get out of as self. Yes? You don't spend any time doing it anymore. And all the wishes for self to change, you give up on those wishes completely. Yeah? You're not waiting for this idea of self to change. You're not. Yeah? Because you're seeing it as not you. You have a clear view that something where you started life from was a manufactured point, and you see it from awareness. Yeah. You're not calling Paul is aware. You're seeing Paul say it's aware. Yeah. Yes. And that one vision, yeah, that one vision, yes. Don't have this solution isn't of time. You don't have to put 80 pounds of solution every day on it. One glimpse can be a new way of seeing. Yes. One little free sample, you can imagine the whole pie. Yes. So non-duality is telling us what our nature is, being ourselves reality. So reality is our nature. Yes. Our nature is reality. The head is making up a reality, but our nature is of reality. From the godfather of non-duality, Ramana Maharshi, being ourselves reality. That is the assumption of non-duality. Everything else that's said is really based on this fact, that being ourselves reality. The greatest mystery that you'll ever, and you're completely in it, is reality, yeah, wanting to attain reality. So for reality to be driven to want to attain reality, it must be taking itself to be something else. There's no other logic that would demand or drive or cause seeking. It wouldn't, yes? You would recognize, why would I be looking for what I am already? Yes. But who's recognizing that? Yeah. And does that recognition in time get drowned 5 minutes later or 3 minutes later? And you have the revelation of being a lion, and 2 minutes later, you're hearing the interpretation from a sheep's point of view. Yeah. And there you go. And now you start seeking to become like a lion. That's not being a lion. You it's now defined as the fact is you're a sheep and you want to become like a lion. As what? As a lion? If you want to become like a lion as a lion, you've already been successful. You've completed the mission. You're a lion. Yeah. But if you want to become like a lion as a sheep, there you go. Yeah. And the system that's thinking it's a sheep cannot think any other fucking way. It will think about a lot of things that are not a sheep, but the thinker is always going to be coming from the sheephood. Yes? Yes. You have to recognize it. If you don't recognize it, you're going to be under this delusion and you will be the greatest mystery. Because you, in a sense, there isn't that you, but what you represent will be looking for what it is, with what it is. Yeah. Only to emphasize what it's not. That's insane. Yeah. Let's say, okay, what you're not is going to try to become what it is. That could take 50 years. Yeah. Every second of that 50-year journey, what's the emphasis? What you're not. What you're not, what you're not, what you're not, what you're not. And then what it is as the goal keeps moving. It's like when you put the thing out, it's as farther than what you can reach. So you keep pushing it and then and you pushing it and then trying to get it. It's insane. It's like if you watch that movie Fight Club when Ed Norton's thinking Brad Pitt is another guy beating the shit out of him, and he finally sees the video. It's himself punching himself. Yes, this is a non-dual revelation in Fight Club. He sees, wait a minute, I thought I had an enemy, Brad Pitt. It's been me all along. And then for the next message would be, and it's not you. It has been me all along, and it's not. See? This is what is one of the dilemmas. People get to the thing, it's been me all along, but then it goes from there. I've got to get better as this me. No, just fall back. Yeah. Fall back and see. And then now it's ripe. It's completely ripe. Yeah. And you're not going to pick it. You just see it. And then it dies on the fucking tree. Yeah. So the beauty of non-duality is it gives a very, very simple thing and it doesn't budge it from there. You are what you're looking for. It's not okay, we're gonna have a 4-hour debate. No, it's not a debate. It's just the presentation, being ourselves reality, the greatest mystery going on here. Yeah. Is not why the cicadas come out every 12 years. The greatest mystery, yes, is reality, which it just stated, that's what we are, wanting to attain reality. And the reality it wants to attain must be a conceptual idea of reality because it's the living reality already. Yeah. It's sort of like the conceptual idea of heaven, it's a golf course or something. You know what I mean? We're going to be playing golf all day. It's just everything gets framed as a thing. And when you can see it with non-duality, the head hears the message, commandeers it, and tries to become a non-self as a self. That's awesome. Just take a step back, and I'm not that. Yeah. It's not only the pants get pulled down, there's a stepping not out of the pants, but before the pants falling down and seeing I'm not that. So let it be completely embarrassed. It's not you. Why would you want to try to protect that which you're not at the expense of knowing what you are? It's just insane. Yes? So this was so beautiful because first things first in time, I needed a way of life, the action figure. Yes. I was in a state now, no human power could change it. I got struck sober, really. Out of the blue, something took out that urge, that radioactive urge in me. Yes. And that obsession to drink or use, or the thinking that preceded it, was dimmed down sufficiently that I haven't had an interest, a strong feeling or thought about drinking or drugs for 37 years. So that miracle in and of itself, but here, that miracle is probably going to die in a day or two. Yeah. It would have gotten drowned in the tub again, seriously. Just like the lion gets forgotten, and now you try to remember it as a sheep. Yes, same. But luckily, I was introduced to a way of life that extended the miracle now for 37 years. And in that miracle, a whole lot of other possibilities became available. And I guess one of them was the, being invited by the universe to hear non-duality. Yeah, yeah. And there was a hearing of it. And the hearing of it really started to put into light the hearer. Yeah, it was a relentless investigation, but the interrogation didn't say anything. It just shone a light on it. That's all it did. It was just full on awareness of what I used to look from. That's all. And what I used to look from just crumbled under the interrogation. Not one word was said, really. It just felt, it gave it all up. It got, yeah, it was the emperor with no clothes. It just was unbelievable. Never said a fucking thing. The thing would, something would drop, and then I would see it just like a lens that produced distance between you and what you were looking at. So I had that lens and I saw the you I was looking at as not me. Yeah. I saw it as a you, and the personalness just drained out because there's a lot of a yous looking. It's a manufactured perch, literally. And when you're thinking from that perch right now. This is something I humbly believe we need to know. Everything that you say is in the after. Yeah. All the feelings that you come up with are from the after. This is why it's an intuitive or an aha. You get a download from the before that upsets the apple cart. Yes. And more and more. And you get to realize this can't get it. Yeah. Yeah. This isn't a real you. It's a clone you. Yeah. And it can't make the transformation to a real you. There isn't one. Yeah. So you're never going to get it. And that becomes like a hallelujah after a while. Yeah. It's incapable. You can't think outside the box. Yeah. It's impossible. You can hear people like Einstein and stuff. He didn't think that fucking equation. It got downloaded. Yeah. All this shit that happens when the person it seemed to happen through talk about it, they had nothing fucking to do with it. They had been thinking for years trying to figure it out. Nothing was working. Then something downloaded. Just bammo. Yeah. And it opened a whole new corridor. That's how it happens. Yeah. So instead of awareness, you have to forget awareness if you live as if you're aware. You're missing really the real definition of awareness. Awareness doesn't, the light doesn't start from the camera's position. Yes. Light comes through. Yeah. The light doesn't, it's not like block and then light, the browning and then there. No, we're in a giant field. of light. There's an activity, an interpretation, a play, let's say, as Shakespeare said, that's going on. And it can be so overemphasized by this cherishing of self, and everything else that's going on seems to be completely unemphasized. Yes? Yeah. And when we see everything, we really see it from here. Yeah. So the seer defines the seeing when the seeing is the only event, really. But the idea of being the seer defines the seeing. Yeah. That can only happen in time. So in time, this is where the magic trick works. And the basic assumption is that which comes after is truly before, but it's not. Yeah. So there's seeing, and then there's that claiming of the seeing, yeah, by the mental state, and then there's the seer. And then the seer is presupposed to be before the seeing. Don't you see it? So it makes a little backward flip in time because it's definitely comes after the seeing, but now you feel it as if it's before the seeing, and it's the seer of everything that gets seen again. It's amazing. It really is. It gets credit from every event of seeing, and it goes cha-ching as the seer. It's incredible. It's so fucking efficient. It needs time. But if you can see it, you're not looking from it.
Yeah.
And you can be brought to the point of seeing it. It's always going to be through the seeing, but you can hear about it. You can. You can approach it with an understanding. You can. The understanding isn't necessary at a certain point. So the view, which is an understanding, doesn't replace the vision. It leads you to the vision. Yeah. And then the vision will really illuminate the view.
Yes.
Yeah. So the view is like a almost a visual, like an eyeglass crutch until you break and you get the whack. And now then the vision infuses the view. Yeah. So the understanding gets illuminated by the vision.
Yeah.
The understanding is just a temporary like bridge while that you're still on a delay where you're the timelessness you haven't stepped into. Your one leg is in time and the other, yes. Yeah. And yeah, so what's going to allow you to get pulled in is an understanding. I felt it's like an invitation. So you don't go and surprise the host. You've been invited, so you go, and then you don't know which you're going, and then something pulls you in, and then the understanding gets illuminated with the vision. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's much different than an unilluminated view. It is. An understanding has value to a point. It's not the resting place. You don't rest in the understanding. You rest in the vision or the awareness. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if you keep resting on the understanding, it's going to become a disservice. Yeah. Because it's not meant to take the place of vision.
No.
Yeah. It's meant to sort of, in time, be a bridge so that it opens up possibilities before you get drowned again in the tub, so to speak, by the head.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's so beautiful, literally. It's completely disarming, really is. You realize all the obstacles were on this side, literally. Yeah. And all those cryptic sayings have a large life now, like the gateless gate or the open secret. Obviously, it couldn't be a secret if it's open, and if there's no gate, then you can't call it a gate. The gateless gate is no gate. So, these things like the seeker is the sought instead of the seeker and the sought, which is usually how the mental state plays it out. Yeah. So the sought isn't instantaneously found usually, because then the seeking of the sort, it just reinforces the seeker. That's really its real point, is to reinforce the seeker. The seeking isn't there to find.
No.
It's there to reinforce there's a seeker that's looking. Yeah. All right. Well, I've been slapped into attention. Yeah, and like the action figure and the idea of surrender and stuff is, there's like two records playing at the same time. Remember when you were older, there was an album was like 33 and a third, and then the single would be 45 RPM. Yeah. Let's say they're on the same music box, whatever, and they're moving, but one's moving at a different speed than the other. Yes. So the absolute, I don't find the absolute as the greatest skillful mean if when attempted to be used by the 45 RPM. I don't. I think you better just do skillful means that have been presented thousands of years from different, like Buddhism and stuff, breathing and everything. Because non-duality is probably not going to work when you're trying to command it to work. Yeah, it doesn't budge that way. That's how beautiful it is. Literally. If there's a speck of you in it, it ain't moving to do your bidding, so to speak. You can try all you want. It just doesn't work, I feel. So, but when so there are great skillful means. I mean, dropping a show, breathing, you don't need to, but when you try to use, like, I remember the first time I was getting these ideas. I was living in Australia, yeah, and I was getting these ideas, and I was with this lady, and she was going out with a friend, and she wanted me to do the dishes, and I heard her and everything. And then when she got home, the dishes weren't done, and she says, "Paul, why didn't you do the dishes?" Well, there is no Paul. You know what I mean? And she said, "Screw that, do the dishes." So I grew up. I went through the non-duality teenage phase very quickly, but I could see the head was trying to get advantage, taking advantage of the idea that there isn't Paul. And I've seen a lot of people believe, well, if there is no self, that I'm not an alcoholic, and now they're drunk non-dualists. Yeah. You got to recognize the tune. Is it the 45 or the album? Yeah. The album is a constant Love Supreme with John Coltrane. The 45 at that moment of playing needs to be addressed. Yeah. If you're fucked, you better admit you're fucked. Yeah. 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 It just, I mean, life has probably brought you a solution. You know that old story about the guy, he there's a giant like hurricane, and he's up on his roof, and he prays to God to help him. And he's up on the roof, and a helicopter comes and says, "Come on, grab the thing." He says, "No, no, I'm waiting." And he says, and then a boat comes. "No, no, I asked God to save me," but he has a big idea. And then something else comes, and then he finally goes to heaven, and he bitches to God. "God, I asked you to save me." I said, "What do you mean? I sent the boat, I sent the helicopter, I sent the plane." Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah. All right. Anyone?
Ben.
That
Hello.
So,
we're
So,
we're we're cattle at the meat market. Thank God my name isn't Ben. All right, Ben. Yes.
a question came up in my head when you were talking, and it kind of goes
Let it stay there then.
as far as identification and attachments are concerned. I went through a life thing where I got separated from my family, and it was almost from an objective viewpoint, looking back on it, how it happened, and like just watching it all happen in real time. And then my ego reached out for something because I didn't have my wife or kids and dogs or house or identification with everything that gave meaning to my life. My story, it was not there anymore. And so I got into a narcissistic relationship because my ego was grasping for something. And that went crazy, and cops were at the house and all sorts of stuff. But anyway, I found myself alone, and it was obvious that universe, God, intended for me to be alone. And then more awareness came where I could see the whole story, I could see my coping mechanisms. I could see the patterns. I could see patterns from prior generations, my parents, and the repetitiveness. And it was also blatantly obvious. But then, it brings me to the spot of your analogy that you talked about, the lion and the sheep yesterday, where you continued it on. And the little baby lion, it went back to the sheep. And in my story, that's what I did, because I went back to my wife and my kids, my home and my dogs. And I felt like I was missing out on something as far as what I felt like I had, the connectedness with the whole universe, because it was like it all happened to put me there in that spot to experience what I experienced. And so in my head, I kind of felt like I gave something up because I took back on my roles as being a father and a husband and all that. So it's been a very confusing time. And that's kind of what's brought me here, is trying to put sense to it. But after listening to you, maybe that's the last thing I want to do.
Yes. Yes.
Mm, okay.
Yeah, if you don't work it out, something else will. And a lot of things it's best to be told what's going on instead of think what's going on. Yeah, something will inform you. Yeah.
Mm,
And the idea of, a way of coping, let's say if you're alone, well, something intended it. After a while, you don't, when those things are offered sort of like a crutch, you don't even need them. Yes, you're alone. It's sort of like, I don't know, it's not, because you and I are giving everything all the meaning it has. Let's remember that. Yeah. And sometimes you're just alone, period. Yeah. And then
mm.
you're not alone. And then this and that. And
I mean, I even had a cat fall, and my cat managed to kill itself. It
wow.
hung itself by its neck in this little weird table leg,
Oh, wow.
It was like,
Oh,
it was really weird. A lot of weird synchronicities, I guess.
yeah. It seems,
Like with numbers, like every day it'd just be insane things.
did it leave a suicide note?
No, no, I did not. But yeah.
Meow, meow, meow. Wow, that's incredible. I'm sure the cat wasn't planning on that happening.
Uh,
Yeah, and it didn't have a narrative to fall back on. He's just dead. Yeah, that's I would take that as something through the action figure lens if the cat died. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I would volunteer at the Humane Society.
mm.
Yeah, maybe your kids would like a cat. You know, and then really make it a point to really give some attention to that cat. Yeah, yeah. But hey, the action figure is a wild thing. And we don't emphasize it at these talks to a point, yes? And because I feel there's other ways to deal with the action figure actually better in a lot of ways. Because sometimes when people try to use non-duality to lessen the load, it doesn't really work that well. Yes, they just get all fucked up in the head and stuff. But you know, what can I say? You're back with your family.
Right.
Yeah. They must have needed you. Yeah. That's a nice feeling, isn't it? Yeah. I think when something or someone needs you, it can bring out the best in the action figure. Yeah. Yeah. It can. So, all right. Well, just hang out, bro, with us. Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
The answers may not come in a linear manner. Yeah, you may get answers that didn't align with the barking of the question. Yes. Yeah. But after a while, it's just like my experience with sound now is I hear the sound, but if you ask me to locate it, I go the exact opposite way. I'm thinking it's happening over there, but it's happening here. Yeah. This is sort of the logic of what's before sound. Yeah. There's something you hear, and it just usually triggers the mental logic that's insane. And by seeing the insanity of the mental logic once again, you realize I'm not that. Yeah. So, yeah, it's very good. Yeah. All right. Anyone else? I don't think I want to end on the note of a cat suicide. So let's, yeah, yeah. I can see my our cat, Fatso. I would think Fatso is going to be the guillotine because I have a glass door I have to open up for 8 years religiously, and at many times do I have a to close it quickly and chop a little head off. But thank God it's not me. The tail wouldn't satisfy me. It's got to be the head. I need the head of what's that movie? Bring me the head of something. What movie says bring me the tail? No, and they want the head. All right, anyone else? Go
Sean,
ahead. Yeah, good.
Sean in York.
Who? Newark?
Sean York.
Sean Newark.
Oh, Sean York. All right, Sean, come in.
Hey, Paul. Thank you. It's funny. I
It's
think the
not
movie you're
Sean
talking
Palmer,
about is.
Newark. Newark, New Jersey. All right, Sean York.
Are you talking about Bring Me the Head of Alfredo Garcia? Is that the
Oh,
film?
yeah.
Yeah. My
Bring
dad worked on that movie. Funny
I
story.
did. Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
So being the reality ourselves, we attempt to seek reality, and then
We don't. The head attempts to
the
see
head,
reality, yes. You
right?
gotta really have don't let that just observe that bridge because that's the only thing that connects us is the thought system and the voice in the head. It connects us with something that we're not. Yeah. So it's nice to
Right.
check it out before you pay that toll because you're going to be paying a toll both ways. Yeah. Yeah. So the head definitely the head believes in the head. Yes, and the head obviously doesn't believe we're being ourselves reality. Or if we are, the reality sucks and it wants a new, better, different reality. Yes? Yes. So just to be clear, yeah, it's never, we haven't moved an inch, literally, bro. Yeah.
Mm.
What we
I was-
are hasn't moved an inch.
It's a milking inch.
Where if you wanted the closest thing you could, and it's a vague sense, but the closest thing that you could get a composite drawing of you would be awareness. Yes. And awareness obviously isn't of a thing. It's what observes everything. Yes. So, and it observes without any intention or interest or emphasis. It just sees. Yeah. I was aware the worst day of my life, and I was aware the best day of my life. Yeah. Awareness never looked away. Yeah. So, how you get a sense of the awareness is seeing what you're not. Instead of trying to get a sense of awareness of by that which is not aware, you get a sense of that which is not aware, and that intimates the awareness you are. Can't say it any better. Yes, that's
Yeah.
it. That's the move, so to speak. Yeah.
So I know when they talk in the big book in chapter 5, the ABCs, you know, we're alcoholic, we could imagine our own lives. No human power could relieve us of our alcoholism, and see that God could, if and would, if He were sought. Um, this seeking, I don't know. Is it necessary to like seek for a higher power if we are the reality ourselves, and we attempt to seek reality is fucking us up more?
You ask yourself that. So if you have a sense of reality, then probably no. But you may also be in a world of rituals. So you go through or dance with the ritual, yeah, of an idea of reality. But it's the question is to you, not to me. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And remember, when we're talking about the action figure, that's the single, that's the 45 RPM. And you can't apply the 45 RPM to the 33 and the third, but the 33 and the third can influence the 45 quite a lot, but not intentionally by the action figure of the 45. Yes. I
Yeah.
just don't
So
see it
we're
work.
fucked.
I've been in this little business for years. I've spoken at thousands of people, and I've seen almost every possible idea that doesn't work or mental reaction to non-duality. I've seen it all a lot. Yeah. And I've seen when something's trying to get something out of nothing. And then it's sort of like they go to the skylight, that doesn't work. They go to the cellar window, they go to the back door, they go there. It just goes on. And they can't get it to do something for them. Yes. That's the beauty of it. It's truly nothing to the head. If the head is Sauron and is constantly looking, Lord of the Rings, for the ring, the non-duality is not the ring. It's one of the stones that's maybe right next to the ring, and Sauron only sees the ring and misses the stone. Yes? Yes. The mental state, its hierarchy of value, doesn't value nothing. It doesn't. It wants to make everything something. Yeah. Non-duality doesn't budge. That's the beauty of it. Yeah. It will not adapt to you. It will not take a shape to fit you. It's just like a desert tortoise pulled in the meat and everything, it doesn't matter how long the coyotes runs around it, that meat ain't coming out. The coyote is smarter than us. It usually gets bored in a minute or two. We keep seeking for fucking ever. But non-duality, I humbly don't, it's not gonna budge by our, when we call, it doesn't come. It hasn't left. It's not like anything else we've been introduced to. It's reality. Finally, really the reality that we are of, yeah, and all the while seemingly to be in something else. Yeah, and mostly when we're in the something else, we call that the reality. Yet we're actually of a reality that is not the reality that you can see, hear, feel, and taste. Completely not. Yeah. So the only thing the head can do in its made up reality is to have better realities. Yeah. I want to have a better one. Yes. But it's basically a dream, and it wants to get a better dream, so to speak. Being ourselves reality, that's another aspect of one of the lesser greatest mysteries, yes?
Yes.
Is that not realizing the impermanence of this place, the coming and going of this place. We just think it's a reality in flux, and we can work it so it'll be a nicer reality. No, it's showing yourself it's not fucking real constantly. Yeah, but for us to feel real, it has to fucking feel real. Yeah, and then we actually react to causeless effects. The fear you had of that tiger in the dream last night was a causeless effect. There was no tiger. Yeah. So the effect, which was the fear of the tiger, was a causeless effect. We're in a world of causeless effects. And yet that which we are can't be affected by a causeless effect. No. Is it affected? The head says it is. But is there a built-in immunity? Yes, there is, if you're not the head.
Yeah.
Are you going to have pain in this life? Probably. Will the suffering grow and grow and grow? Probably not, because the suffering can be diminished, but the pain comes with the package. Yeah. You wanted to be a thing, things happen to things. You got an ass, now that ass is going to get kicked. The Course explains it beautifully. You and I are the dreaming of the dream. We forget that we're dreaming, which is, how do you forget yet you're dreaming? Right now, remembering yourself as a thing is the forgetting that you're dreaming. Yes.
Yeah.
The remembering of yourself as a thing is the forgetting the dreaming. And now, all right, forgetting the dreaming produces a whole new condition. What is it? That you now give everything you're dreaming the power to affect you.
Yeah.
So now you think you have an ass and something can bite you in the ass. It's perfect. It's a beautiful description.
Yeah.
It's from in the Course in Miracles. It says, how that's the greatest mystery, because it couldn't happen. You cannot forget that you're the dreaming. No matter, because what's forgetting that it's the dreaming is not the dreaming, it's the dreamt.
Yes.
So the object, yeah,
Yeah.
can live as if it's not the dreaming. It can in the dreaming, though.
Yeah.
It's all part of the dreaming. Yes, yeah. So, like when someone says, "Hey, it sounds like when you talk about not being a body, it sounds like, oh, it's really easy." I find it impossible. Yeah, as a body. As a body, the head's going to inform you it's impossible not to be a body. What else would a system that's protecting itself say? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, uh, Anyone else? Oh, yes. Sean York, you all right with that?
Yeah, I'm still, I'm never gonna get it. The
Yeah,
brain will never get it, or the
that's
mind. I guess I've been, I'm very affected by, um, I don't know, like political and environmental unrest and a bunch of, I see like just terrible things happening in the world, and I I recognize that everyone is just dreaming this thing where they feel like they're threatened by some kind of unknown narrative, whether it's, whatever, red versus blue, black versus white, Palestine versus Israel, whatever you want to, A versus B. And I'm seeing that it's like all
Remember,
not
you're not
not
that though.
real. It's the dreaming.
Remember,
Yeah.
you're not that, Sean. So and if you're moved, yes, as what you're not, you'll do service and stuff.
Mm.
And have an effect where you can have an effect, maybe at the soup kitchen and stuff. This isn't about, because it's not, you're not that, doesn't mean it's not thatting, it's doing. Yeah. And if it has a call to be of service because of the insanity, listen to it. Yeah. Put yourself in a position to be used. Yes.
Mm.
Your effect may be much more valuable in a smaller pond. Yes. Yeah. So let's say this is a cool idea. Because of addiction and stuff, a lot of people are homeless. Yes. A lot of homeless
Yeah.
people. You know what a homeless people usually wants the most? A sleeping bag. Yeah. Where can you get sleeping bags? Thrift stores. You can. Yeah. Small investment. You can go to a shelter or somewhere that is dealing with this activity going on the streets and give them what they actually want. Not money, but a sleeping bag or a backpack. You ever see the people on the streets? Their whole life is maybe in a backpack. Yeah. If you got an extra backpack or something and give it out, you can have an effect here if you like. And it's healthy for the action figure. The action figure, you're called to do something bigger than Sean's doing. It's not something that you'd use a philosophy to have, lend a blind ear to it. You listen to it and be put to use. Yeah. If you don't like the way things are, in a little scale, maybe change the way things are for somebody. Yeah. Yeah. That's the one thing I learned a lot in recovery was service is essential because of the self-centeredness of the mental state. It gets into a lot of closed orbits, yeah, to the point you're never on the outside of it. So you're always listening from the inside and you're just getting propagandized by the head, yeah. But service is a way of getting out of that orbit. Yeah. And when you're out of the orbit, what do you feel? Most people feel that they're available because they're doing something and they're present. I'm present and I'm available. And if that is the case, that the action figure can be present and available, that makes the action figure of service. Yeah. If you're present and available, you are of service. Yes.
Mm.
Maybe you can't change the big things, but you can participate change on a smaller level. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So service is I don't like getting into all this, but the basic theme here is separation in the action figure world. Yes. Yes. The guilt of the Course in Miracles they talk about is the guilt people feel because they feel separate, that they've left the Godhead, you know what I mean? And like they did something really stupid and they split from you know, Shangri-La and whatever. Yeah. And then they try to make people worse here so they can feel better about themselves. So there's a lot of mental activity going on. But the separation is a given. We think we're separate, and then we're long for, yes, long for unity or connection. But that's all, that longing is because of the separation. Yeah. What you are is not separate. Yeah, not. Yes. And all of the ways the separation are built is the basis for building blocks of divisiveness and this and that. Yes.
Mm.
Uh, Sooner or later, it's best to see before the separation. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And you are before the separation. You are appearing after the separation, but you really are before the separation. And I find for the action figure, service is a key. Yeah. This is how these meetings came about. I was compelled to share in recovery 34 years ago about what I was seeing and what was happening. Yes? Because I realized I was in a tribe and a community, and that tribe and community has unique traits and sufferings and stuff. You know, there's a living feeling that people get in recovery by the statement of pitiful, incomprehensible demoralization. Wow, that's incredible. But you can feel it. And then abject faith in the head produces spiritless servility, and you feel it. That's what it felt like. Yes. So in this case, they knew the dilemma of the action figure that's captured by an addiction is it's in a like a closed circuit system. Yeah. The interest and attention hasn't left the solar system of Paul, and Paul's masquerading like the sun. Yeah. When it's actually a moon, it's showing itself through reflective light. Yeah. But there's like the interest and attention, and then you go from that interest attention, you see how terrible the world is and this and that, blah blah blah. But when you do service, your the interest and attention leaves this orbit, and what do you feel? Generally, almost everyone, they feel their natural state, which is present and available. Yes, present and available. Yeah. And then when that's seen, then service is something you do, but being of service is an attitude you live from. Yes. Yeah. So if this seems like an unbearable situation and everything like that, make it somewhat bearable for another person for a day. Give them a sandwich or something. Yeah. Shit. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, that's what I can share.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know, this thing with the world and getting into the world, two people that I never met, but I have a lot of respect for, Nisargadatta Maharaj and Ramana Maharshi said, you know, let the world deal with itself. Yes, in a way. Yeah, don't get too engaged. Yes. So we try not to have any opinions about anything in these talks. Just stay on point. Yeah. Everything else the head loves to use for divisiveness. You know, it wants to draw teams, obviously, or tribes, and it wants you to think you're in one tribe, and of course there's the anti-tribe that you hate or whatever. It's just it's another bondage of the mental state. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Mm. Mm. There's not going to be a unity of separation. They're seeing there's no separation. Separation is not going to be healed. Yes? Unity is If there is unity, I don't like that word, but what we're looking for is before the separation. Yes? Yes. Yeah. And it allows you to live in seemingly through the separation of this event. Yeah. You're not in argument with it, and you're not fighting it, but you really truly see something about it that allows the action figure to travel lighter. Yes. Yeah. It's sort of like borrowed light from the before. Yeah. Something, grace gives us a borrowed light from the before, and then we see the after in a new light. Yeah. Trying to put the afterlight on the afterlight, it's just more blindness, really. But the real light that sees is the before light, yes, of awareness itself.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Anyone else? This lovely evening. We have Annette, I think. Yes, and then
Yeah.
we have dinner, I hope. Yeah, so it's Annette and then dinner. Dinner has a virtual hand. All right, Annette.
Hey, Paul, what do you think about I don't know. I was listening to Alan Watts recently. It just kind of came up on my feed. I've heard him before, but for some reason it kind of just the interest was just interested. And and then after when I was I was driving and I don't know this idea because like how you say like the best way to like is by its absence is how experiencing something is by its absence, like going into an anti-gravity chambers to the best way to know gravity
Yes,
or to have a
the
sense.
effect of gravity.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't know, like I guess I don't know, maybe whatever, it was just another way of feeding the head. I'm sure it is. The head just always wants something. It just always does. And it's just like this place, this is all just like an anti like reality, like dreaming, like obviously that's what dreaming is, right? It's just that's the best way to experience.
It's not
Like,
an anti-reality, though. It's an appearance in reality. Nothing escapes reality. There's not
yeah.
dreaming in reality. There's dreaming in reality. Yeah, nothing is of the dream. I've dreamt so hard, I've separated from reality and became a real dream. No, that's not, I don't believe that. Yeah. But good, Annette. I think you've answered yourself. Right? Some reason,
I don't know, it's just fun to play
Alan
with,
Watson gravity. I had no idea what was going
Well,
on.
well, he says a lot. It was interesting. Like I was hearing a lot of congruence in what he was talking, what his little talks and whatnot. It was, yeah.
Great. Yeah,
And then,
good.
of course, then my own head wanted to say things, of course. So,
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
well,
it's
yeah.
just fun.
Yeah, Alan Watts used to live here in Sausalito on a houseboat.
Mhm.
He had trouble with
Yeah.
alcohol. Maybe he had no trouble with alcoholism, but the body had trouble with alcoholism. Yeah.
Like the idea that if it was all light, you'd never like without darkness, you wouldn't recognize light. Like if it was all just reality, like it is reality, and it is, just the head can't get around it.
Remember, recognize, the word recognize. So
Recognize.
yeah, so you're cognizing again. Yes, this
Ma'am.
is the head. The head is a redoer, a re-everything. So it's recognizing. But it doesn't leave, it's always going to be the cognizer. So the cognizer is now recognizing. No. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Annette. Yeah.
Fun. Thank you.
Yeah. It's interesting that you're shot because all I'm seeing is your head.
Oh, yeah.
physical
Hello.
head, and it keeps sinking down, and I just have an urge to drown it. I do.
It's
I put the head on the water and not have any compassion. Or actually great compassion. All right. Nice to see you, Annette. Whatever works, man. Alan Watts is usually on public radio. It's great. I never listen to him that much, but yeah, it's awesome. Whatever can tickle your bell, so to speak. Whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's. Anyone else? All right. Good. We're gonna start saying goodbye. Kathleen, help me. David, nice to see you, David. Yes. Yeah. Gregory's. Nice to see you, Gregory. Can't get much of a shot of you, but you're animated. I see you moving. There you go. Nice to see you. Oh man, you go. You're gonna miss it today, eh? All right. Ben S. Our one of two missionaries in Kansas. Very good. Stephen Mack, on having never left, Stephen Mack. Yes. Shiva WLA. Nice to see you, Shiva. Yes. Brian Crow. Andrew. Nice to see you, Andrew. We got Clifford, our man in Chiang Mai. Fiona Fuzon. Yes. James Olson. Marl. Yes. Alan Olson. Now I tell James he can get it, and I tell Alan he can't get it. Sean York. Nice to see you, Sean. Yeah. Travis, my friend in Santa Rosa. Drew, nice to see you, Drew. Yes, yes. Bill Churchman, as always. The SS Lazy Boy. It's docking tonight. It's good. Eric SoCal. He's feeling frisky. Yeah. Vimal, the significant other, moved to the other side. That's cool. Yes. And then the light is behind thee. The light is blinding. Topher Kent. Topher is he's like a comet, one of the Zen Bislap comets. Comes back every few years. Nice to see you. Yeah, I think that's that. Hey, listen, thanks so much for hanging out on a Wednesday night. We'll be here on Thursday, doing the recovery stuff. And yeah, I don't think I'm going anywhere special, so the schedule's good. And thank you. Just without you, this loving presence wouldn't be as felt, that's as strong. Yeah, so you and I are being used by a loving presence to express itself through us. Isn't it wonderful? Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. See everyone soon.
Wonderful, Paul. Thank you.
See you. Yep.
Thank you, Paul.
See you guys. Thank you.
But I missed some people. I heard Judith, I think. Sorry, I can only see one page. But whoever I can't see, I can see you. Yes. All right.
Thank you,
See you.
Paul.
Bye-bye.
Night, Paul. Love you. Thank you.